LBR LBO Infrastructure Summit 2016.
Now, first of all, we have to understand the pain of growth. These slides actually show the typical congestion in Chinese cities today. There are also some alarming figures because of the rapid growth in China. You can see the figures: 1 million cars in 1994, 33 million in 2008. So what does that mean? The growth in the road length can never match this figure. And the result is serious congestion with an adverse impact on public transport. The speed of buses fell by 60% and service reliability by 88%. Now, they have come up with some drastic measures, including introducing quota for car registration, odd and even car plate, increasing vehicle tax. But these effects are not significant because private car growth continues. And Chinese cities are now deep into the problems that are created by achieving the scale of megacities. We were talking about megapolis this morning, without being able to manage the increasing environmental damage, immense traffic congestion, increasing pollution through vehicle emissions, and most provinces in China are not performing efficiently in the transport system. Now, with Sri Lanka's vision to develop as a megacity, and in the words of the Prime Minister, to make Sri Lanka the most competitive nation in the Indian Ocean, and to develop the island as an economic hub, we have to look at sustainable solutions and avoid the mistakes of other megacities. So do we have a panacea for all this? It actually started with city planning and comprehensive transport development. Now, quoting from my experience in Hong Kong, we started our first comprehensive transport study in 1976, when Hong Kong is experiencing rapid population growth and is coming out on being a fishing community. So we are now a financial center. Now, it is very much like your Western region megapolis planning, because it is based on a land use outline plan, and on that we overlaid our economic and transport plan to connect all these development areas by rail, roads, and tunnel. And we all know that infrastructure is costly and cannot be done overnight. But a city cannot come to a standstill. So we are talking about short-term, medium, and long-term solutions. So the policy objective set in the 1970s is to maintain mobility. It is still the word that we are using nowadays, mobility, and accessibility for the majority, and to meet the demand for both passengers and freight movement, because you have container ports, and you have commercial development, and you have residential growth. So we just made use of three principles back in the 1970s, and that is improving our road system, expansion and improving our public transport network, and more economic use of road space. Now, the first study in the 1970s resulted in two strategic developments which turned out to be right for Hong Kong, and that is to construct the mass transit railway and to restrain private car growth. Now, and I can assure you that as a transport officials in those days, we are not popular, because on one hand, high taxation is imposed on private cars, but then the growth in public transport capacity and connectivity is only gradually building up. So moving into the future, we now have 5 betters that is to guide Hong Kong's development. Better integration of transport and land use, better use of railway as our backbone, better public transport services and facilities, better use of advanced technologies, and better environmental protection. Now, against this background, I would like to focus on 2 areas today: how to develop a sustainable transport system, and how technology, which you have heard earlier this morning, can help in demand management. I don't have to repeat sustainable transport. It's actually that we should be building a system that meets the basic access needs of individuals without damaging the environment, and that this sustainable transport system is affordable, provide choice, and offer support to a vibrant economy. That I'm sure that in this room, you'll be asking questions, can we do that? I'm saying that, yes, we can do this. Because to a large extent, Hong Kong has struggled for the past 30 years. It's not a short-term solution. And we have achieved the policy objective of promoting public transport as a sustainable transport development objective. Every day, 90% of our daily commuter trips are made on public transport. And out of this, of course, the mass transit railway is the biggest carrier. And we have an ambitious railway expansion plan. And the Mass Transit Corporation is actually started as a government-owned corporation to become a listed company and a railway giant which operate railways both locally and overseas. Now, the railway development plays a significant role in our urban renewal. Railway stations and new lines are planned to match new population and economic activities. The typical example is that when we build the new Hong Kong airport, we have a dedicated rail to the international airport. And now we are building a new express train to China, which will shorten an originally 1-hour journey to 18 minutes, which means we are linking two faster-growing megacities in terms of minutes now. Now then, we talk about private and public sector cooperation. And what we did with our railway is that we make use of the RMP model, which is the property development right on top of railway stations and railway depots. Now, these properties include both residential and commercial properties, and they form an important source of funding in the construction of railway projects in Hong Kong. Now, to be brief, this shows that, on top of railway stations, we have, multi-level buildings. Hong Kong is a very densely populated place, and people lived in high-rise and in small units. Now, I must admit, we have a housing problem, but this is, of course, not the topic of this morning discussion. And we have other public transport mode with buses, and we have minibuses. You can look at the buses. These are all ventilated, air-conditioned, because we do have very hot summers, and people will give up using public transport and use private cars if they are not ventilated. And the public light bus, which provide feeder services to the buses and also to the railway. Now, with all these public transport mode, what is our role? So the government role is to provide a level playing field and to develop the supporting infrastructure, such as roads, bus termini, and public transport interchanges. There's also a clear differentiation on the roles of different public transport mode, but the objective, and we hold tight to that objective, and that is to develop a people-centric public transport system. Now, our public transport modes are not subsidized. They are operated on a self-financed basis, and the principle is user-paid. Now, coming to demand management, which is the other focus I have, it is inevitable that we will be talking about smart cities. Smart cities are becoming widespread around the world. Why? Because technology is already ever present in our personal lives. Technology has the ability to be applied on a larger scale and will have a beneficial role in society by providing us with timely information. So the concept of smart city is information communication technology, and that is ICT. You have heard about it this morning. So this is there. And Sri Lanka, as you're developing your megapolis, you must bear this in mind, because smart city would support sustainable economic development and high quality of life. Well, in Hong Kong, day-to-day demand traffic management, we have traffic signals under the area traffic control system to improve traffic circulation. Rail and bus companies provide real-time information, and Transport Department actually have broadcast and allow you to access to the CCTV pictures so that before you leave home, you know where there could be serious congestion. Technology is also helping us because in places like London, you can borrow bicycles using smart cards, and this gives you the last mile. It gives you the linkage that after you use the railway, you can actually get a bicycle and get to your point of destination. Other places are using smart signals that can turn green during emergencies to allow fire engines, and also streamlining of bus routes. Now, I think in real life, faced with severe traffic congestion, and while solutions can be developed with smart cities and maybe more road construction, But we have to be very careful with what we are doing in terms of managing demand. The growth of private car in the Chinese cities is already a lesson to learn. They grow much faster than you can build roads. So some countries have been using, like Singapore, very successfully, electronic road pricing to price vehicles. As you drive your private car into a congested area, you have to pay because you did impose an economic cost. Congestion is a cost, and every vehicle using our road system, in terms of demand management, you have to bear this cost. So in some places, you have parking charges in town centers, and some car parks are built in the periphery of a town center so that you can park and ride. And this is a photo which I took in Tokyo, which is a newly constructed interchange in one of the very busy urban area. And I can see the investment that put in. You have cars and parking spaces on top of the railway station. And sometimes when congestions get very bad, in the 1970s, Hong Kong have tidal flow system. That is, in the morning peak hours, the traffic lanes are reversed in one direction, and in the evening in the other direction. But most importantly is that mass transit. We give priorities in forms of bus-only lane, bus-only right turns. This is very common. And on bigger scale, we have this BRT. Now, this is a picture of Guangzhou in China. And they spent 4 years in building up this bus rapid transit system, which is able to move 20,000 passengers per hour, and it's actually helped to shape the traffic arrangements in a very densely occupied city. Now, talking about development of cities, passengers, and freight, just some brief ideas, because goods delivery is a problem. If the goods vehicles choose to go into the town center and share and take up your road system and coinciding with your commuter peak, you have a problem. So smarter, modern logistic hub would help to organize deliveries by grouping and batching goods to reduce the use of road space and allow goods delivery to be organized in the off-peak hours, avoiding congestion. Now, modern technology through RFID, cloud access technology, variable devices can help in tracing and tracking goods, thereby avoiding lost and wrong delivery. The drones can also be used for online purchase deliveries, and this is one which is already done in China. They use drones to deliver goods to nearby colleges. And this morning, speaking on technology, autonomous vehicles are on the way. By 2035, there will be more than 54 million autonomous cars. This car will have an impact on city planning, as these cars do not need a driver, do not sleep, and do not need a parking space. So modern cities are all faced with common problems of rapid growth, increased congestion and pollution, and all these would cast worries on the development of sustainable megacities. Building the future is not an easy task, and I understand that even worse is overcoming the institutional barriers that prevent good decision-making. And this would be a great challenge, because this is what I've been faced with as a civil servant in the Transport Department in Hong Kong. But now we have overcome that, and we do have an efficient communication and decision-making system. So I hope speakers in this summit will help us all here to understand more that it is in everyone's interest, and not just those involved in planning and transport management, to work hand in hand to support a long-term vision of well-reasoned and progressive development. Thank you.
LBR LBO Infrastructure Summit 2016.